get here.
Welcome, gentlemen. I was so glad you could accept my invitation.
You promised a lot, Dracos.
Off-meta picks, I've heard it all before.
100% pure, uncut draft wins. Bullshit, if you ask me. Take it down.
There's no need to get hostile. If you gentlemen aren't interested in what we're selling, we can just take our business elsewhere.
Just get on with the presentation.
This is a Kali top lane. You thought she was nerfed, you thought she was out of meta, she was just hiding in her shrouds. Now you boys have the mechanical skills, but you don't have the champion to show it on, and this is the solution to that problem. Give your boys one taste of this, and they'll be dominating the top lane just like they used to. That's the good stuff. Let's talk about flavor of the month. Oh, Yuumi. See, the thing about you is you've got more than the 2 brain cells required to make this champion work, and quite frankly, so do the balance team. It's gonna be nerfed before the month is over. There's nothing left here. This is Yuumi 2.0. Soraka bottom pushes the lane, heals your teammates. She does everything you need a support to do and more. She roams anywhere she wants without needing to be duct taped to anyone. The cat might be back in the bag, but this star child is
Damn it, Dracos, we came here for firepower, not these cheap tricks.
Fair enough. You want firepower? I can make that happen. Graves Jungle. The good, the bad, the ugly, well, let me tell you, your opponents are gonna be more than plenty ugly after they take a shotgun shot to the face. Mr. 200 years giving you a hard time, well, he can't hit you if he can't see you. But I can tell that that's not enough. You boys want something more. You want something a little special, huh? Well, this right here, this is my Mona Lisa. This is my Sistine Chapel. This is my $1 billion magical girl luxe skin line, complete with 32 chromas, 12 different wand styles, and 6 unique haircuts.
Nice.
Yeah. This is level 16 Cassidy.
And what about the first 15 levels?
What about the first 15 levels? What about the first 15 levels? Now I thought I was working with a couple of e-gamers here, but it turns out we got a few comedians. First 15 levels don't matter. Snap your fingers, medic. That's your carry dead in an instant. One more time. That's your tank dead too for the next ult that he has. One more. That's your Nexus. Namex Peke. Ring any bells to you? One more, medic. And this is the one that's gonna hurt because this is the next game when Cassidon ticks over to level 16 again and you have to watch as he kills your entire team by himself while he spams that stupid TFT emote and you're left wondering why you didn't ban this champion. So what'll it be, boys? You buying?
We'll take the lot.
Medic. Thank you. Yeah, you want some?
Oh, excellent. Thank you so much.
You can really never
Really appreciate that.
Hello. Yeah, they bought it. No? Every single one. Yeah, they're gonna drop at least 3 games before they figure out it's bad tech. No problem, Mac. Just give Kaiser my best, okay? I was happy to hear the Wukong worked out so well in scrims. Another job? Yeah, all right. TSM? Yeah, I think I've got something that they might be interested in.
Welcome to Berlin, Germany, in week 4 of the LEC summer. We're approaching the end of the first round robin, and teams are looking to make a statement in the race for playoffs. This is their last chance before the mid-season break. Now, you might notice we're back in my bedroom, and very recently that's because I found out that someone close to my wife tested positive for COVID-19. The risk of exposure was there to both of us, and while no one is displaying symptoms, a call was made to move the LEC on-air talent team to remote broadcast while we wait for the results to come back. As such, we'll be broadcasting today's games from home for the entire Shoutcaster team. While many of our production team are still working from the studio, this can ensure safety for as many people as possible while still maintaining a high level of production for the LEC. The plan was to have Machine host this week. However, with the move from studio to online, we have decided to go with me leading the desk. Machine will be back later in the year though. Thank you for your understanding and for your support as we do continue to adjust to the changing situation. Let's dive into and turn our attention to the LEC and the incredible summer season that we're having so far. I'm joined by Vedius and Froskurinn, and let's talk about the incredible summer season. Let's talk about the fact, we've got some insane games up ahead, and we're rounding out the first half of the splits.
Yeah.
You excited, Vedius?
I thought you were going to take it, Frost. Yes, we've had a pretty exciting split. I think that what's been crazy is the standings that are sitting in front of you. I think that Mad Lions sitting near the top shouldn't come as too much of a surprise, but the fact that G2 is currently sitting on a 4-3 record, the fact that Fnatic is currently sitting at 7th, yes, the scoreboard is very close, but very rarely in Europe do we have such a packed scoreboard this early on in the split.
I feel like it's particularly that middle of the pack teams. And yeah, it's still early on, it's still really close, but the middle of the pack teams, the SKs, the Misfits, the Vitalities, the Mad Lions, the Rogues, all of them have risen up.
The G2s are in the middle of the pack, and today they've got themselves a substitute. Pinoy will be playing for Perks. Perks obviously mentioned that he's having a bit of a difficult time, and I really appreciate that he was able to say that, and the team gave him the opportunity to step back. But this is a difficult spot to be in for G2. They're struggling already, Vedius.
Yeah, I think that Pinoy, for anyone that's been following the European scene for as long as Trevor and I have, he's not a stranger to the competitive scene, but is he someone that's seen a lot of success? No, not necessarily. Yeah. I do think, though, that G2 has been in a situation before where they've had to introduce different members into the bot lane. Mickey had wrist issues. They've also played with different bot laners as well in the past. And I think that while Pinoy may not be the same caliber from what we've seen from Perks in the past, I think that they have more than enough caliber of players to be able to play around him. So am I too concerned for this week? No, I'm not.
Well, while I understand that it's not super concerning and that G2 aren't reaching too far out of the wheelhouse, I am still concerned for G2 and Fnatic because they are sitting kind of middle of the pack, with Fnatic in 7th place. And yeah, it's only a single game behind, but to take one step foot back when we have one of our shortest summer splits ever, when we're on the ramp towards an international competition, I don't know, I feel like it's a little bit spicy.
Why are our teams so competitive? We looked at that standings just a second ago. There's 6 teams tied for 3rd. The standings are so incredibly close. Vedius, you need to tell me a little bit about what you think about why all these teams are so close.
Well, Frosk and I have been talking about it a lot this week, and I think we're both in agreement that the typical top teams are underperforming right now. Fnatic, G2, and even Origin, to an extent, I feel are not showing as the same level of quality and consistency that we've seen from in past splits. Meanwhile, many of the middle of the pack teams that we had from last split are also elevating their level of play. Mad Lions, Rogue, SK, and even to a degree Vitality have been showing us a lot of new things, some new players, and I think that this is also elevated some of the middle of the pack teams to the upper echelons, which has resulted in a pretty competitive split so far.
Hilariously, I agree with you. It feels like the G2s and the Fnatics, they're not as strong as they once were, which means that international competition, even though it feels like it's right around the corner, everyone is praying that they still get it together. But it is nice to have the Mad Lions and Rogue rise up. But Origin, for me, feel like they've stayed the same. I feel like Rogue and Mad Lions got better, Fnatic and G2 got worse, and Origin are just sitting right there, just like, we're solid, we're still here.
Yeah, I think that Origin is an interesting one because I've been looking a lot into how Origin play and how they approach the game, and it feels like that while they seem to be more proactive and a lot more aggressive compared to what we've seen before, it's not really netting them significantly more advantages. So I still have a lot of question marks around Origin and how they will perform, and until we see more consistency from them and G2 and Fnatic, I think that for the most part, Mad Lions and Rogue are going to sit at the top of the standings.
And just a small point after it, because I agree with you, and I don't want to like take down Origin. I think that they have changed their play style. They're much more proactive, but it isn't necessarily making them better. They're still just a strong team.
Well, talking about strong teams and teams that we anticipate bouncing back, I want to move on to one of the most historic teams here in Europe. It is Fnatic, of course. They are reaching a fantastic milestone here in the LEC. When they play against SK later today, it will be their 500th game here on the European stage. They're the only team to have played in every single split of the LEC, and absolutely nobody is even remotely close to that 500 game milestone. As I'm the one introing this, I want to put this into some different perspective. That's roughly 17,981 minutes of gameplay. That works out to 300 hours or 12 and a half days. Out of their 499 games played, Reckless has appeared in 385. It is phenomenal, it is incredible, and they are one of the most successful European League of Legends organizations, and arguably one of the most successful on the planet.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm wondering who's going to retire first, Fnatic or Quickshot, because they're clearly both getting on a bit. But I think that in the current present, Fnatic have been struggling, and I think that Frosk and I have been talking a lot about what should fans be feeling right now? And Frosk was very vocal on Euphoria, saying, like, you shouldn't be worried. Fnatic's been in this position before. And I think I'm on the same bandwagon where Fnatic is in a position where they're trying new things. They seem to be still figuring out how the meta really fits them and what style they find the most success with. And you know that whenever they come into a new split, like, there's a bit of a meme where they kind of start off strong, but, like, there's some point during the first half where Fnatic is always weird. They either attach themselves to a specific champion, like, let's not forget the Kennen bot lane that they didn't want to give up, the Garen Yuumi that they didn't want to give up, the Karma. Like, there are so many examples of Fnatic where they get a little rigid, they get a little stuck in something that they're really committed to, and it takes them time to pivot away from that. So I think that moving into the second half after week 4, maybe we'll start to see it this week, but I have much higher expectations of them. Here's the whole week 1 versus week 2 Fnatic thing at Worlds, right? Like, you can never really count the team out. So until I see them continue these struggles into the second week, and, you know, when we start having conversations about playoffs, then I'll really start to be worried.
Yeah, and you can count all of the great things, too. You know, Hilly still had an incredible Blitzcrank performance. Reckless pulled out Syndra for the first time ever, so continuing to show, like, the depth of his champion pool. And Selfmade is probably the best performing jungler right now, just individually speaking.
But Nemesis is really not living up to every other name that you've just listed.
Okay. Before Vedius gets in here, I understand people are saying that Nemesis hasn't performed that well. And yes, there is a discussion to be had on, like, his Twisted Fate performance in particular. But I do think that people getting mad at him over the champion pool, especially things like not seeing the Azir, we know that he can play it. You don't play Azir with Graves. And I don't think it's necessarily Nemesis's champion pool that is the issue, but Fnatic's fixation on Graves as a pick. If you have Graves and Azir on the same team, Azir steals the farm away from the Graves, and it's counterintuitive to the strategy that you want to run, which is our jungler's a god, let's put him on the god tier pick. But no one's saying Graves is the problem from Selfmade. They're saying Nemesis is not playing very well. Almost said something else. Got it.
Good recovery.
I think, but my counter today, so I am in alignment with you where, based on what we've been seeing in the draft, Nemesis is not always set up to look like the superstar, right? And I think that's a fair assessment. But I also think that Nemesis has been making poor decisions in a lot of team fights. His laning has not been that strong. And I think that overall, the level of play that he has demonstrated is not the peak that we have typically seen from Nemesis. Now, is he the reason why I think Fnatic is losing games? No. Because when you look back at how they played against G2, it was actually a lot of Bwipo and him deciding to force engage. Now, again, is that a Bwipo thing or is that a communication within Fnatic thing? It's hard for us to say. But I think that there is clearly something bigger going on here with Fnatic where, yes, Nemesis is underperforming. I think Bwipo is underperforming a little bit, but there are clearly, like, bigger holistic issues within Fnatic where it feels to me like they're trying to find a clear direction that they want to figure out what works for them.
Well, look, as we said, we're rounding out the first half of the round robin today and tomorrow. They will be playing up against SK later today. And honestly, when we get to that match intro, it's quite exciting because both teams have surprised us. You talked a lot about sort of champions and decision making. We're on a new patch this weekend as well. I want to see whether or not Fnatic will be able to use this new patch to shore them up. There's a lot of key changes coming to the Rift. One of the big things that I'm excited to see is that like Aphelios should theoretically be easier to deal with. Hang on. I'm gonna give you a sec. I see a Nocturne on there. I'm not talking about that. I want you to tell me about Aphelios. I want you to tell me why he's gonna be nerfed.
So the thing about Aphelios is while he has been nerfed, and I think like it's actually a pretty solid nerf, a lot of pros have been telling me that like his versatility just makes him too strong of a champion. And while now he may be slightly lower on the priority list, there may be a few more champions that people look to pick into it. I still think it's going to be a mainstay in pro play and something that most teams will look to try and get their hands on.
The fact of the matter is that Aphelios has been around in the meta for long enough that teams are starting to find answers into him, stacking dive tools like what we saw at the end of spring and now the start of summer. The big thing for me is actually the adjustments to Yuumi. The ERLs have been playing on 10.13, so they've been live on this patch. And with the nerfs to Yuumi, Ezreal Yuumi is no longer kind of the go-to composition. And now it's instead Ezreal Karma, and then usually it's a handshake on one team gets Aphelios Lulu, the other team gets Ezreal Karma, and Varus and Kalista still remain banned.
Yeah, but also Kog'Maw got a buff, so tell me Kog'Maw's coming back. Juggernaut comes.
No.
You can see it in the Come on, like I want to live in a dream world where Aphelios is gone and Juggernaut comes back.
So I'm of the opinion that we might see AP Kog'Maw. I'm not going to put any promises out there.
You're being real safe with your language there, Vedius.
I think that because champions that are very long range, things like Xerath, poke champions, can be very effective into things like Azir. I could see a world where if someone's really passionate about Kog'Maw, they may bring it out, but he does have mobility issues, so I don't want to like hard commit onto that train, but I do think that with Gnar buffs coming out, and I also think that with the Rakan buffs as well, this could lead to a couple more options in the top lane and support. Maybe we see a return of Xayah Rakan. Maybe that also increases in priority again. So I think this patch was pretty cool. I think it could result in some pretty significant changes, but we won't know for sure until we actually get to see some of these teams play.
No, definitely the case. I'm going to give you 2 seconds. Why is Nocturne on that graphic? And why did you not tell us?
That's a great point. Because the thing is, Nocturne's actually received some pretty significant buffs, particularly in the jungle. But because he's been buffed in the jungle, that means that you can play him more in mid lane. Because the thing about Twisted Fate is he's actually hard countered by Nocturne in the mid lane. The fact that you can match roams and like he can mitigate a lot of what Twisted Fate does. Like even AD or AP, it doesn't matter. Like you blind pick TF, you can counter with the Nocturne.
We're not seeing Nocturne. We're not seeing Nocturne. Just put him down, put him out of my misery for me.
I agree with you until we get into the mid lane.
Nice.
I think Dive is really powerful right now. Nocturne got buffs. He does counter Twisted Fate. He's a mainstay in the meta. I think we're going to see Nocturne.
I'm done with this. We're moving on. In spring, they were rookies. But since then, Mad Lions have grown into the top team in the LEC. Tomorrow, they take on Misfits in our Alienware Match of the Week.
Europe has a very long legacy of rookie lineups, making us proud on the international stage. And the Mad Lions are already almost there. Hell, they even beat G2 Esports in a best-of-5, the first EU team to do so since the Misfits in summer 2018.
They've done it! It's the Mad Lions! The rookies have risen up!
You know, the rookies can actually surpass the veterans.
Dominate.
The way they play is nice to see, and the hunger really shows.
Mad Lions undisputed at the top of the table in the LEC. What can't this team do?
Just being first place doesn't mean that much to me. What I'm really happy about is how well we are doing as a team.
Everything in the pit to try to get Nemesis, and he flashes over the wall. He's baited the fight, and Selfbait is now on a rampage in the backside. Selfbait still untouched, still full health. Whippo alive as well. They're chunking through. Nemesis on the backside trying to buy space for the rest of the team.
Nemesis came up behind them. Mad Lions turned around and blew him up.
Here's the Destiny Gate as Nuke looks to try and get behind them. But we've seen TFs fail this before, and immediately he's jumped on. Why do TFs do this against Mad Lions?
That's gonna be fun, going against Matt. It's only humanoid though from last year, but yeah, I'm just really excited for it.
So that Kobe is now back, I can finally prove that he's not better than me and that I deserve my place at Mad Lions.
I think he's happy to actually play against really good players again and with really good players.
Looking to dive the turret, but here comes the Destiny and it was cancelled! The shockwave cancels it, Kobe flashes away, Ingo's cries, Ingo's stolen with another point, he's going to stop, but Kobe jumps over the wall with his instinct. Wuko is still going to try and chase him down as Cries is getting
taken out by Kobe. He dodges around.
Well, I think it's going to be fun to play against Carsey. I didn't expect him to be third place or for him to perform that well anything, so...
I hope this split we can actually compete again with the best teams, because this is where everyone is starting for their life.
He's going to be forced away. Flashes the Emperor's Divide, locks him inside the jungle.
However, be one of them. For Humanoid, who's about to smack Pillisang in the face, almost could have got the double there, gets the dissonance.
This will be the team fight that will decide the game.
Orianna can take over this fight, the command dissonance. Kaiser on the way in, and Fnatic are falling as Mad will take the Elder.
Dominate.
If we are going to be improving in the same way as last split, then we are definitely going to be like at the top.
An incredible victory for Mad Lions.
Misfits came out and really stuck it to Fnatic.
And well played by Misfits. I was a doubter.
Top of the standings, it's like rock, paper, scissors over here. Who's going to beat who?
I absolutely love that video. It is the match of the week. Tomorrow at the end of the day, Mad Lions are undoubtedly the best team in the LEC right now. They were the top of the standings. And Froskurinn, what a gauntlet that is thrown down from Kazi towards Kobe.
Yeah, it's Carsey versus Kabe, and also Humanoid versus Fevivin. And I know the thing is that it's supposed to be like the rookies versus the rookies. And yeah, Misfits have done a good job bringing up new talent like Razork, like Dan, Doss also joining them in that bot lane. But for me, it's really that defining moment of Carsey saying, I finally get to face Kabe and prove that I'm the right choice. Kabe left Splice. He went to North America. He came all the way back. He didn't want to be part of the rebuild we talked about in Euphoria. Now he's on a roster that's rebuilding again because things went so sideways in North America, and he's looking at the guy who has his former job. That could have been Kabe on that roster.
Unbelievable. Misfits are coming off a 2-0 week. Vedius, do you think they have a shot? Do you think Kobe's going to be fired up to prove something to try to take down the Mad Lions?
I think that right now as a team, Misfits does not possess the quality to be able to challenge against Mad Lions. I think that a lot of their decision-making is not that good. I think Baron has been a big issue for them, and I think that it got better last week, but still a lot of their setups, a lot of the way in which they manage their waves, unless Razork is having an insane game, I think that it's too difficult for Misfits to be able to challenge Mad. So it's kind of on me. Like, I'm looking at that jungle. I'm looking at the AD carry matchup. Who's going to come out on top? But I think it's heavily Mad favored going into it.
I love how soft some of your language is, Vedius. You're like, I just think it's not that good. Like, it feels like the Mad Lions are really carrying kind of the edge of this match of the week, but it feels like every single time we put ourselves in a position to say that, Misfits do surprise, and we know that they're super capable of like bloody, fast-paced, exciting games that we saw in spring. I just need to see that now in summer. I don't know what happened.
Well, we'll have to find out. Look, it is 2 games left before we finish the first round robin. Misfits are on that win streak, but so are the Mad Lions. We'll see who continues that today and tomorrow. It is the penultimate day of the first round robin. Let's check out the games that we have ahead of us today. My eyes are going to be on Rogue versus Origin, 2 of the contenders for a spot at Worlds. Reminder, we have 4 of them this summer. And for Vedius, I mean, what games are you looking at today?
I mean, I'm pretty excited for Fnatic SK, if I'm going to be honest, Quickshot, because I legitimately think SK can win this matchup. I think SK, if they're able to get their comfort picks, actually stand a chance of being able to beat Fnatic. But it depends on how the draft goes, because obviously, like, there have been a lot of question marks about Fnatic's draft. So, yeah, I think the draft will indicate a lot, but I legitimately think Crowny can do it, you know, taking down Reckless.
Vedi, did you just come off of like the Fnatic should be worried fake news segment into SK?
Yeah,
they
but like,
okay,
what I'm saying is I wouldn't be worried as a Fnatic fan, because realistically, Fnatic on paper are of course the favorites. What I'm saying is the SK have showcased an ability to take down top teams. They literally beat G2 last week, so I think that they can do it. I think they have the talent.
I'm really looking forward to it.
Well, okay, let's look at the transitive properties. G2 smashed Fnatic, SK smashed G2, so therefore
SK MSI champions.
You can tell there's a lot of energy here today, which I'm absolutely in love with, and I'm looking forward to the game. Vedius, I think you're going to be with me on the AD for that game. And Frosk, you get to see whether or not Vedius is right when you're casting it. Let's turn our attention to game number 1, though. It is XL Esports taking on Vitality. These are 2 teams that are below that playoff spot. And just before I hear from Vedius and Froskurinn, I want to hear from you guys at home. Everybody watching, please spam in chat. Who do you think will win this game? XL or VIT. All you gotta type is XL or VIT, and I will be able to track those results. I think we're gonna be in for a close game. I think both of these teams have been struggling somewhat. And Froskurinn, I want you to paint a little bit of a picture here for me. You know, what should we be looking at, and who do you think are gonna be the favorites here?
Okay, I am an Excel apologist. I'm going to make that very, very clear. I think that they were sold out early, though, by strength of schedule. They had a very stacked schedule to load, and it just kind of tanked them down through the standings, and then everyone has kind of forgotten them. Everyone's excited about, you know, all the new faces coming into the split, the Vitalities, the SKs, and that's who they're paying attention to. But now that Excel actually get an opportunity to face these teams like the Misfits, the SKs, and the Vitalities, they are actually slowly creeping back up. So I think Excel is actually a fine middle-of-the-pack team and not that bottom two that I think majority of the audience thinks they are.
Yeah, fans definitely not agreeing with you there, Frost. Vedius,
wait, we're going to see who's going to win this game, Twitch chat.
So, you know, on the logic of transitive properties, because G2 lost to SK and SK lost to XL, you can clearly see that Frost's argument holds significant weight in this capacity. But I'm more in line with the chat right now. I think that Vitality has showcased it a little bit more than what we've seen from XL. And of course, like, that is represented in the standings naturally. But to me, I think that a key issue that both these teams are struggling with is the fact that they have some rookies that aren't naturally fitting into playing in the LEC and like having that initial great success. I think that what happens a lot with some new players that are very hyped is they come into very good teams and immediately they're able to showcase what they're capable of, and some of their weaknesses aren't always taken advantage of. But I think that with teams like Vitality, where they've got a lot of young rookies, where XL, they already had issues before, and then you're slotting in, well, Special isn't a rookie, but still kind of returning, and then Cry's in the top lane, you end up with these players who have a lot of good mechanical skill, they have a pretty solid understanding of the foundations of high level and pro league, but they're not able to consistently perform at that level. And this is usually something that comes with time, with growth, with a good infrastructure that can help enable and better develop these players. So I'm not that surprised that we are seeing this. I think it happens pretty consistently in our league, where some of the rookies don't have a splash in their first performance. But I think that for both Vitality and XL, they've showcased something that can be built upon, that can be developed and grown with, and it's just a matter of how quickly can they grow given how short this summer split, and you know, we're already hitting that halfway mark, right?
Yeah.
So. And it's always going to be a question of kind of like whose rookies are consistent on the day, because I do agree with you, Vedius, that's probably what's going to decide this game, as well as draft. I actually think that this is a game in particular that, like, the easier the draft is to execute, then you're limiting the variables and you're increasing your chance of having a consistent performance from your rookies. I think that Excel have the stronger bot lane. Like, I really like what I've seen from Comp and Labrov, but I think if anyone points out like the shining light of Excel, it has been Patrick and Torre. I think that Milica is stronger than Special. I think that Kadril is stronger than Engie. Engie's really reliant on some of those like hard trigger jungle champions. Like, he's there for the engage, he's there for shot calling, and Cabo's better than Cries. So like, it's fairly split even pound for pound kind of across every single matchup, and it's just going to be, okay, is this a game where Vitality tried to exploit Cabo Shard over Cries? Is this going to be a game
Talk to me about Cries just a little bit more, because I think he's one of the players that is one of the most maybe controversial is a word, you know, has a very high variance in his performance, maybe more than the rest, and in particular on his Kayle. Initially, I hated it. I thought it was the worst thing ever. Then I saw him carry on it, and I'm like, I don't know how to feel. So Frost, give me a little bit more on Cries and what you'd like to see from him.
I think it's also a band-aid for the fact that Volibear is so strong in the meta right now, and Kayle is a viable option into it. So it kind of covers up Cries', I'm going to call it small champion pool. He's known as like the AP carry player. He played over in the UK Nordic Leagues, was considered a carry-oriented top laner, was considered kind of the upper end of that talent pool.
Got it.
Unfortunately, those ERLs are not as strong internationally as the Spanish ERL, the Polish ERL, the French ERL, and I think that's kind of the big gap that you see when you see Cries enter, and he's not making the same splash as guys like Selfmade, guys like Shadow.
Let me jump in very quickly. We're about to go to the caster desk. We have just a few seconds. Froskurinn and Vedius, one-word answer. Who will win this game? Froskurinn.
Go Vedi. What? Go Vedi.
I've got ladies first. Come on.
Excel.
Vitality.
Excel Vitality. Which analyst will be correct? We're going to head over to Medic and Ender to cast the game.